keen on presenting our case.
Really cool. So I know we're 1 minute earlier, but you can start whenever you want. So this stage is yours.
Okay, I just prepared the screen sharing. And there we go. I think everybody can see the presentation at the moment.
Yes.
That's great. Yeah, thanks everybody for joining and showing your interest in our case study. It's about a PIM implementation for a beer and wine equipment retailer. A few words up front. This project is still in development, so probably the screenshots that I show you will let you know that there's some work to do, but although we wanted you to share this information with you and show you our case study. Just a short intro on anyMOTION. This year we have our 25th anniversary. We're pure digital agency. We're owner-run and about 70 people working at anyMOTION. And for us, it's very important to really understand the businesses of our clients because we think it's in the end all about tailor-made solutions. Even if we use a tool, a software like Pimcore, there is a customization that produces the final application in the end. When doing this, there's one very important part. It's all about the success for our customer, and this comes along with having an eye on cost efficiency. So, working on open source for us is always key. There are 4 pillars that we usually use when approaching our projects. Just a quick run through. We start with a strategy development. We're talking about KPIs, what's the goal of it all, and if it's a marketing project, it's about persona development and stuff like that. And afterwards, we are thinking about technology, but to be honest, many of our products are based on Pimcore because it's that highly flexible. If it is part of the project, we're taking care about content strategy and all the stuff that comes along with that until in the end it's about targeting, for example. Last but not least, we take care about the maintenance, the enhancement, optimization of the project, the application and all. We're deep diving into web analytics and stuff like that to see if all the set goals have been reached. A quick look at our technology partners. First, for sure, Pimcore Gold-Partner, very proud of that, and even Gold-Partner of Microsoft, and working with Shopware, Oxid, and so on, and even doing some app development as well. Just a short view on our clients list. You see some automotive stuff, but as well some small and medium-sized businesses. So it's quite broad, and we're proud for working for every one of them. The client of our case study of today is Brauland. What you see here is the current web shop. It's a bit outdated, but that's the only thing that I could present to you at the moment because, as I said, project is still in development. Brauland is a wholesaler for nearly all the products that you need for brewing and fermentation, what in the end means producing beer and wine, cheese, and even kombucha and stuff like that. In the Benelux area, they are market leader and they have 10,000 plus SKU. And what you will find later in the challenges section, they have a really broad variety within the product range. It's from hops up to laboratory glassware. Everything you can imagine what you need for the brewing and fermentation processes. The project itself, if you have a look at the current web shop, the data only comes from SAP, and you can imagine that field types and the amount of attributes is quite limited by this setup. And for sure, if you want to maintain the product data, you need SAP access, or you have to ask colleagues, and that's not sufficient anymore. Overall, the current web shop is some sort of outdated. So the scope was driven by a web shop relaunch that's done by a separate agency partner of us. They even were thinking about implementing PIM and MDM DAM solution. And the PIM for sure needs connection to the SAP and the web shop. As in every project, there are some challenges. It's, as I mentioned, the broad variety of attributes. It's a very heterogeneous structure throughout the product categories. And something different to other projects, they decided to use the PIM as the initial point for setting up new products. So usually we find it in the ERP, and then transferred some basic data to the PIM, but in this case it's just the other way around. And for sure we need some data exchange with SAP and the web shop, and show you later how we are implementing that. So if we have a look at the setup, we decided to use RabbitMQ as the central initial point for sharing the data to several systems. It's makes it a bit easier because we can queue all the product data that is supposed to be transferred, and the receiving system can choose, if you want to call it like that, whenever it is ready to grab that information. And by doing that, we are, for example, not that facing not that many risks if the system needs to be updated or stuff like that. So Pimcore has several pipelines in RabbitMQ where data can be put in, and one pipeline is transferring data to SAP, and then there starts a manual process enriching some of the data with some sales and logistic information. Return it via RabbitMQ to Pimcore, and the enriched product data then goes with a separate pipeline to PrestaShop. That's the software they decided to use for the eShop relaunch. And there is as well a connection from SAP to Presta, because they decided to have in version 1 pricing and stock information directly from SAP. So if we have a look what we're doing in the PIM in detail, we have some basic attributes that are common throughout all products. We have some relations, and we have some type-specific attributes. And for that, we are using the classification store, and this all together mixed up, I will show you later, is the definition of the product itself. And there are some other object classes like categories and brands. We're using Data Hub and GraphQL definitions to export all the relevant data to RabbitMQ pipelines. This is just a quick look of the setup of the classification store. In the end, we have nearly 100 different group collections, and here in the example, you can see one group collection, it's for recipe kits for brewing beer. So this is some starter kits, you can call it like that. And they consist of different groups, and each group contains specific key value pairs. And so the type of product is really defined by the group collection of the classification store that has to be assigned to the product. So this is how it looks like. We have some tabs here, as you probably use it in your PIM projects as well, some attributes-based data, cross-relations, and we're talking about the specific attributes. So assigning the proper group collection from the classification store, this is what defines the product in the end. We use the standard data hub configuration, and then in addition we decided to set up a configuration object where the GraphQL query is maintained. So even later when everything is live and online, the client can change the GraphQL definition if they are technically wise able to do that. So if another attribute will join the list, they easily can adjust the export definition. There are lots of workflows that we are implementing at the moment. If you set up a new product, it starts with a state it's new, and then there are some mandatory fields to be filled in, and then you have a manual setup that it's ready for SAP, and once this is done, there's a quick check for the mandatory fields, and if everything's fine, it's transferred to the SAP pipeline, to RabbitMQ, and after enhancing the data, it's returned via RabbitMQ, and then there's a automatically workflow state to be set up, because then it's ready for all the marketing data. And once this data is implemented, they can set a request for publish, and then there's a special team that makes the last quality checks and decides if the product is okay for being published in the shop. And then it goes via RabbitMQ to PrestaShop. Yeah, as mentioned before, we have around 100 of group collections, and that perfectly allows to distinguish all the different product types, and just using one central object class for that. The usage of RabbitMQ is really helpful for us for data exchange. It minimizes lots of impacts, for example, in the case of system updates. And the GraphQL configuration for the data hub is scalable, connecting further channels or adjusting the current export definition. And it's not live at the moment, but some test runs and that we made with the client seen that we have decreased by 60% in time for maintaining the product data. So now we're ready to answer your questions. I have a colleague of mine at hand. It's Andreas, one of the responsible developers. We're happy to hear from you now.
Thank you. That was really interesting, Frank.
Thanks.
We're waiting for Andreas, right? In the meantime, I think we don't have any questions right now. So if you have any questions, we have 2 minutes. There is one question. The question is, maybe you can answer it anyway, Frank. How do you handle dynamic text inputs? Like, for example, search keywords in products.
It's not part of phase one, but we're thinking about lots of enhancement, for example, product-specific FAQ stuff, and all this will come along with enhancing the object class definition and allow the marketing team to put in those values.
Okay, cool. So maybe we have time for one more question and then we're done. So there's a question, do you use the Pimcore tagging feature?
That's decision has not been made yet. It's definitely not for the products in phase 1, but they're thinking about tagging the assets more for internal use. And if it comes to enhanced filtering within the shop, it still can be a way to use the tagging for the products as well. Okay.
Then thank you for your time. We will go on with the next talk right now. And this is Michael from Two Cream. Thank you, Frank. We will see each other. Bye.
Yes, thanks a lot. And thanks everybody for listening.
Bye.
Bye.